Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin MacArthur. I'm a marketing specialist here at Celarity. Thank you so much for logging in today. We really appreciate you being here. We're loving the answers you guys are putting in chat as well. We are going to start, so if you guys are not muted, be sure to do that. Also, turning on your video is encouraged. Enjoy, guys.
Well, I will jump into things then. My name is Katie Larson. Just to introduce ourselves, I am the recruiting team leader at Celerity. I've been at the company for over 5.5 years. Outside of that, I live in Lakeville, and I have 2 daughters who are currently transitioning from the hybrid to fully online learning with the pandemic. So just thinking of all the parents out there on here right now who are going through a similar situation. And here is my amazing coworker, Michelle.
Hey there, I'm Michelle. I'm the lead staffing coordinator here at Celerity. Have worked here for about 1.5 years now. So just helping marketing and creative folks get into their dream companies. Outside of work, love to go rock climbing, and I just adopted a dog recently as well. So enjoying the dog mountain life.
Well, before we jump into the topic of virtually networking, just wanted to give you a little bit more background of Celerity if there's those of you out there who aren't as familiar with us and what we do. So we've been around since the early 90s, and in the past 25 years, we've become the longest standing marketing and creative focused recruiting agency in the Twin Cities area. So in our time around, we've had over 5,000 job placements in over 600 companies across Minnesota as we've expanded also into national searches. And we partner with everything from marketing agencies, ad agencies in town, small to mid-sized companies, all the way up to a lot of the Fortune 500. So how it works is they reach out to partner with us to almost act as like a third-party HR department. And then in turn, we try to find candidates like you to fill the position. So you can just kind of think of us as like a second pair of eyes or additional resource to your own job search that you're doing. And then when we do come across a role that's a mutual fit, we're kind of here to help coordinate the process from getting your resume presented over to the hiring managers, coordinating all the interviews and interview preparation, all the way through helping you with the offer negotiation. And this is actually a picture of our internal team that we recently took, just with most of us working remotely during this time. And in my time at Celerity, I think I've really found that our values of being professional, helpful, and passionate really guide everything we do internally as a team with all of our contractors, as well as interacting with the community.
Alrighty, so it's poll time. We want to know, when was the last time you used your elevator pitch? So go ahead and respond to the poll now. Give you a few more seconds here, just a few more answers trickling in. Awesome. Caitlin, I don't know, do you wanna, oh, there they are, awesome. So it looks like some of you yesterday got some active job seekers here. Others maybe haven't used it before, so glad you're here today. We can kind of chat about how to go about that as well. So let's get into it. Awesome. So starting out today, we're going to dive into elevator pitches. So talking a little bit more about what they are, why they're important to really have them nailed down, and then some of the different situations you might be using them in as well. From there, we'll talk a little bit more about virtual networking too. Obviously, with the pandemic going on, it's a strange time to be trying to get to know new people. So we'll chat about how to develop your contact list, different tips and tricks on how to message contacts and industry leaders, as well as just general guidelines on how to stay active on LinkedIn, because that'll be really important, especially right now. And at the end, we will have some time for Q&A, so whatever questions you might have, hang on to those until the end. But if you do have any pressing concerns, feel free to chat, and Caitlin, our marketing specialist, can get back to you as soon as possible.
Great, so let's jump into it. I love that gift, by the way. The Office is one of my favorites. But what is an elevator a pitch. It's basically a quick summary about yourself. I recommend trying to keep under about a minute in length, which equates to about 75 words. And it's important to put one of these together as an opportunity to sell yourself as a professional in a short period of time. And they're important because you can use them in so many areas of networking, such as events like this going on today. You can weave it into your LinkedIn summary and profile, your resume and cover letter, and practicing it over time in these different situations will help you become more comfortable and natural with it. So then by the time you get to interviews, you're very well versed as to how to pitch yourself. So just some best practices as in a couple minutes here, just to give you a heads up, we're actually gonna all be working on revamping all of our elevator pitches, especially if you haven't written one before. So make sure to cover who you are, what do you do, and what do you wanna do moving forward. So keep it short and sweet. Obviously start off by introducing yourself so people know who you are. Write a few sentences summarizing what you do for an occupation, and even more importantly, what you're ideally looking for next steps in your career. And then lastly, you can finish it with a question or basically a call to action. So something along the lines of, thanks for taking a few minutes to hear about my background. When do you have a few minutes in the next week or so to meet for a virtual coffee so I can learn a little bit more about your company and what you do?
Awesome. And some common mistakes to avoid when possible. So make sure your pitch is just really clear and easy to understand. You don't need to dive into a 10-minute spiel about what you've done in your past jobs because that'll ultimately come later. So keep it short and sweet. You can use the same pitch for most, if not all situations, maybe tweak it a little depending on if you're putting it on your LinkedIn profile or if you're in an interview, it might change a little bit. But at the end of the day, just speak naturally. Ultimately, you're trying to see if you're a fit for the company you're trying to get into. So just be yourself and that'll speak for itself.
Yeah, I always say giving the hiring managers a glimpse into who you are to get them intrigued, but leaving some mystery to get them excited about setting up an interview to learn more.
Definitely. And some general confidence tips too. I know body language is probably the most important, especially when we're all on our computers all day. It's hard to not slump over and be like peering into the video camera. But try to stand up straight or sit up straight when you're interviewing or chatting with anyone virtually. Do your best to slow down. I know I'm guilty of rushing through my words, especially when I'm nervous in interview situations. So take a deep breath. Try to do your best to make eye contact. I know it's really awkward on Zoom to be looking into the video camera and not at the picture of the person you're chatting with, but it'll ultimately come across better that way.
And then you nailed it. So before in a few minutes we have everyone craft their own elevator pitches, we thought we'd take one for the team and go first. I'm not actively looking outside Celerity, so I tweaked mine to be more just geared towards my personal development within recruiting, but here we go. So obviously everyone knows now my name is Katie, so I'm a recruiter that specializes in finding talent for marketing, creative, and digital roles. I partner with candidates to place them in unique and exciting jobs at reputable local companies. And over my 5 years of being in this role, I've placed over 200 professionals into 50 organizations. I'm currently mentoring associate recruiters within Celarity, and I'm looking for the next step in my career of wanting to manage a team of recruiters. Do you have time in the next week to chat more about opportunities that potentially meet my background? I wanted to point out, I know I bragged a little bit about the 200 professionals that I've placed, but I feel like it's okay to brag. This is kind of your time to shine. So especially since this is kind of a condensed blurb about yourself, showing metrics or specific accomplishments that you've done within your career, don't be afraid to highlight those. All right, your turn, Michelle, go for it.
Awesome. So I'm Michelle. I'm a lead staffing coordinator here at Celerity, where I specialize in full cycle recruiting of marketing and creative talent. I'm passionate about recruiting and human resources, and I've placed over 30 candidates with local companies in the area. And I'm eager to grow into an associate recruiter position where I can continue to recruit and build relationships with candidates. Do you have any time to connect this week and chat more about how I might be a fit with your team?
Awesome. And if you check out me and Michelle's LinkedIn's, we've actually woven this kind of like what I mentioned earlier into our profiles. So you can use it in kind of multiple areas of your network or your personal brand.
Awesome. So some key takeaways there. You can notice we kept them pretty short and sweet, so not diving into too many details just yet. So try to keep it concise, but like Katie said, you can brag about yourself because ultimately you want the company to see how you may be a better fit than someone else. So just be confident and continue to practice to whoever might listen, whether it's, family, friends, your dog. I mean, whoever will listen, the more you practice, the better it'll get.
Yeah, just think what's going to make you that star candidate. How are you going to make your personal brand stand against peers that might be applying to the same position? Caitlin, is everyone back in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. So hopefully those conversations were productive, and just to kind of bring everyone back together, we're going to do another poll. So how would you rate your elevator pitch on a scale of 1 to 5? Be honest, this is anonymous, so curious to hear. 5, feeling great, confident, ready to jump into an interview tomorrow, or 1, still need more time to craft and some more work on it. All right, we'll give a few more seconds. And then drum roll. Caitlin, feel free to post it when you feel like most people have answered. All right, so it looks like we got a lot of 3s, 48%. So actually, if anyone wants some one-on-one help for tips or recommendations with their pitch, this was just kind of like a rough draft or start. If you scored a 3 or lower or 4 or lower and could use some more help, feel free to reach out to us. Our email is team@celarity.com. We'll post that email again on the last slide, but definitely here to be a resource to you. This was just to kind of start the work in progress. So pat on the back to those who have maybe worked on them before, ranking themselves a 4 or 5. But again, it's team@celarity.com.
Awesome. So we'll dive back into more talking about networking. We just have this quote since it's pretty relevant, but at the end of the day, it's more about who you know and who they can help you connect with versus being connected with hundreds of people on LinkedIn. And I think that's kind of an important thing to remember, especially when you are actively job searching, to just focus on reaching out to a few really key people that might be able to get you into a company you're interested in. And it probably won't surprise anyone, but LinkedIn is one of the most popular social media platforms for job searchers. So in terms of general tips on LinkedIn, it's important to have some sort of professional headshot. If you don't have a picture, you can always take one on your iPhone. I feel like most of those pictures are pretty high quality at this point. As long as it's not fuzzy or just looks kind of funky, I think that's overall a good kind of guideline to follow. You can incorporate your elevator pitch into your profile as well. If you didn't have one before, it's kind of a nice spot to have it. Just a small snapshot in your About Me section. And definitely fill out just brief blurbs about your current responsibilities as well, whether that's relevant keywords you might have that you see popping up in job descriptions or softwares that companies are looking for. That'll ultimately just help recruiters and hiring managers find you when they're looking for candidates to join their team. And you can also toggle on the function that says you're open to new opportunities just to help recruiters find you a little easier, because that is where most recruiters will kind of start looking for candidates. And at the end of the day, don't forget to ask family members or friends to help you as well, whether they can help you connect with someone who might get you an in at a company, or even if it's just endorsing some relevant skills that you have at the bottom of your profile.
So then once you've updated your LinkedIn profile, like Michelle had mentioned, then it's time to start building out your network. So start making a list of everyone that you know, neighbors, past coworkers, people that you went to college with, family member, friends, and try to send like a personal message versus just hitting the connect button just to make it a little bit more personable. And then once you start applying to jobs, especially those Fortune 500, sometimes it can kind of feel like a black hole. And so having someone in your network that works there and asking for an internal referral, that can a lot of times put you in the front of the line and just kind of give you a step up on top of others who are just going through their applicant tracking system. And then also reach out to new contacts out there. So follow industry leaders, connect with recruiters like us or hiring managers, ask to, set up a meet and greet call or an informational interview. Stay active on LinkedIn so you're popping up on other people's news feeds. Don't be afraid to post blogs, just showing ways that you're kind of staying up to date with best practices to be an expert in your field. Sign up for more virtual events like this. I know on Celerity's webpage, we do have a calendar where we track different marketing association events in the area. A lot of them are virtual right now, but you can also join different LinkedIn groups within your field of expertise and introduce yourself and just try to expand into as many areas as you can to get your name out there. So hopefully that was fruitful conversations. Definitely recommend connecting with everyone that was in your group or just anyone that you see on the chat. Hopefully that helps expand your network as these first steps that we discussed. And now we just wanted to open it up to a Q&A, just generally speaking about job searching, networking, anything about Celerity that you're curious about. Feel free to post your questions in the chat and then Caitlin will help get those answered.
All right, so it looks like we do have one question that came through. So it looks like, so sorry guys.
Oh, you're good.
There it is, I missed it, okay. I find that most of resumes get bounced by companies. Is there a secret to a resume that gets noticed and through the ATS system?
Yep, I think the biggest is those keywords because typically there's a robot of some sort looking at your resume before it gets through to the actual HR specialist. I think especially if you do have that internal referral that you can use when it asks, how did you hear about this job? That's probably the second biggest piece that can make it go a further way in the process. So I would just spend, like we talked about earlier, quality over quantity of how many jobs you're applying to, taking that extra time to retweak your resume, reading through the job description, just making sure those bullet points and keywords align. It may take more work, but it's probably going to give you a better shot.
Awesome, Katie. All right, so here is another question for you. Okay, what's the best way to tailor your elevator pitch if you are pivoting into a new job? For example, it looks like this lady used to work in events management and now she wants to work in project management.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can take that one.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really just important to parse through those job descriptions you're seeing and add any sort of relevant skills or kind of different keywords you're noticing, especially with event managers. I feel like you have a lot of project management skills. So something about the logistics that you were handling, how many events you handled at once, really any sort of metrics that you find to be transferable between the two jobs. Those are important to kind of help connect the dots because otherwise maybe a manager won't see those connections. So the more that you can explicitly explain it to the manager, I think the better shot you'll have at getting an interview.
Yeah, I mean, I think event budgets, timelines, deliverables, that all can be worded into some form of project management. I know previous to being in recruiting, I actually was an admissions advisor at a college. So I had no recruiting experience, but I tried to emphasize the similar skill set of working with students, trying to help people find the next step, whether it be a degree or a job. So just kind of being creative of how you're using different keywords.
Awesome, Katie. So here's another question I think is really good. So why are companies shy about hiring older, experienced talent?
I can take one for the team with that. I think sometimes it could be because managers want to mold and train a certain way. So just explaining maybe in your summary that you're eager to learn or gain further industry experience, just showing that you're adaptable. maybe a manager could be worried that, you're overqualified if you're more of at like that management level and you're looking to take a step back into an individual contributor role. So having some sort of explanation as to why you're kind of changing directions in your career for whatever reason that may be.
Awesome. Here's another question. So do you have any good tips for managing, designating time while job searching? What's best practices with job searching?
Yeah, I can take that one. I feel like it's really dependent on the person. Some people wake up in the morning and are just ready to go. Other people are like me and they're just like, not a chance that I'm going to job search in the morning. It's just, it's exhausting, especially during a pandemic. It's really hard to stay motivated. And I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. So I think at the end of the day, picking 3 to 5 jobs even that you're really going to put your mind to applying to is more important versus just getting a lot of applications out there. Really taking the time to tailor your resume for each one of those jobs. If they have a cover letter, especially if you are trying to transition into a new career, really doing a great job of explaining why you're a good fit versus sending out 15 applications and not having tailored them. So then they all come back rejected just because the manager or the computer you're getting put through isn't really understanding how you might be a fit.
Perfect. Awesome. So another question for you guys. So it looks like someone is super curious. It's been years since they worked with an agency. Can you explain a little bit of how Celerity works and our recruiting process and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so we do have, like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, a ton of connections with many different companies around the Twin Cities area, a lot of established relationships. So over time, we've gotten to know hiring managers really well, where they proactively come to us if they have a job opening on their team, especially if it's super urgent. They might not have the time to just sit back and wait for the right person to find the job posting on their website. So we're really driven by what these clients are bringing us. And since we work on anything and everything within marketing, entry all the way up to senior director, it's really just going to depend week to week with what we have available and what matches up with your background. Some weeks, we might have 3 project manager roles come out that's a fit for you. Other weeks, we might be working on something unrelated within design. So if you haven't necessarily heard from us, it's not because we don't think you're a fit. It just could be because of what our clients are bringing us that week. So again, just kind of consider us more of like a second pair of eyes to your own job search that you're doing. But feel free to keep us posted on what jobs you're applying to, what you're seeing out there. Maybe we have a connection where we can try to star market you and help connect the dots if we have different hiring manager connections. But yeah, we basically function as like a third-party HR department. So these clients are paying us a separate HR fee. So we aren't taking anything from your paycheck. In turn, we're a free service to you. That helps answer your question.
Love it, Katie. Okay, so we actually have another really good one here. So I know with like COVID and everything like that, people are curious, like, what is, the onboarding process? What does that look like? So the question is like, what is percentage of employees are looking for remote workforce versus on-site? So maybe just explaining like what we're seeing right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's a mix, to be honest. Some of our larger clients just have the kind of bonus of being able to work remotely. So they've been onboarding entirely remote and just having different video calls to kind of help connect the dots and have everyone on the team meet. Other groups just aren't able to do the job off-site. So some folks are still having people come on site, whether it's just a creative team that they want to be in a collaborative environment. But at the end of the day, it's really a moving target with COVID and how the numbers flex on a weekly and daily basis. It's just going to be dependent on the client and what their guidelines are at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to estimate, I'd say 85% are fully virtual throughout the interview process and then just shipping out laptops to do all of the onboarding and training from home. Those that are going on site, it's typically partial where they're kind of limiting how many people can be in the office at a time just to make sure that people are staying safe and social distancing. But overall, I think a lot of companies are realizing that a lot of their employees can still be productive at home. And so it's going to be interesting to maybe see a swing in the workforce, even after hopefully a vaccine is out, months down the road, if we ever return to some sort of normalcy. it may be that companies are just more flexible overall, with more of a hybrid schedule or working remote completely.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Another question for you guys. So kind of going back, we touched on this a little bit in our presentation, but any tips for how to reach out to hiring managers or recruiters on LinkedIn?
Katie, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. You know, I'm always impressed if someone reaches out to me, they see a job posting on our website that they think they could be a fit for, and then they spend, you know, some time to put together a few sentences of the job they saw, why they think they're a good fit, sending me their resume so I can look at their background right away versus having to ask for that, versus someone that might be like, hey, I saw your marketing coordinator and your marketing director role and your UX designer role. Like, I want to hear about all these. And I'm just like, wait, you know, like, what direction do you want to go in? Have you figured out like what your next step in your career actually is? Like, have you done your soul searching? So just kind of that process of how messages are crafted, I would feel is of most importance to me.
Perfect. We just have a couple more minutes. We'll answer a few more questions. We will be sending out a follow-up email to you guys. So if there is questions that we've missed in this chat, we definitely will kind of note them down and make sure to answer them in that follow-up email. But I'll pick two more questions here for you guys. So it looks like currently someone is working with a recruiter. How often should they check in with them? Is one of their biggest questions here.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's really just going to be dependent on timing. So especially around the holidays, things are slowing down. You might just notice that jobs aren't popping up as often. So I don't think a recruiter is ever going to mind if you're checking in. You know, you're not bugging us. It's our job to be helping you find jobs. So if it's been a little quiet, you can check in maybe once a week, every other week. Like Katie said, if you see something posted, that's always kind of a good checkpoint, just because then you have something specific that you're hoping to get more details about. But there's really no right answer on when to check in. It's really, you know, when are you looking for an update? Feel free to ping us and you'll get a response soon.
Yeah, or just even sending over referrals just to kind of keep a few of you within your network top of mind for us, or maybe shooting over a blog that's relevant to the industry, just having more of a clear reason to reach out just versus checking in, you know, same email over and over and over again. It gets a little repetitive.
Perfect. All right, so let's do two more questions here for you guys. So do you have any suggestions or examples of a great cover letter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like it's really just going to be dependent on the job you're applying to. So that could be a good thing to send over to the team at celarity.com email. In general, I like the cover letters that tend to be short. You know, I don't need to read 2-3 pages on why you're a fit. So even just bullet pointing maybe the top 3 or 4 relevant skills and how they fit into the job you're applying for, that's what I personally like to see. But it is something that's really dependent on the person reviewing it as well. So the more concise and focused you can keep it, the better.
Yeah, I know we actually have a blog article on this, and majority of hiring managers and recruiters typically only spend 10 to 30 seconds maybe looking at cover letters and resumes combined. They're just kind of weeding through so many per day. I think the more concise, bullet pointed, to the point, the better. Again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, just giving more of a glimpse of who you are to intrigue different managers out there, but leave them wanting more. Give them a reason to, you know, want to expand in the conversation and meet with you.
Awesome. All right, so we'll do one more question. So this is one I'm seeing. How detailed should your previous job descriptions be in your LinkedIn? Like, what kind of makes like a great LinkedIn profile? What should they be filling out that kind of catches a recruiter's eye?
I think showing metrics tied to different accomplishments is huge, just to show exactly what did you do during your time there. Probably 5 bullet points or so for each position, depending on how long you were there, is sufficient. If you worked at an agency or if you're freelancing, highlighting clients that you worked on, industries that you've worked within. If you're a project manager, well, that's so broad. So what deliverables were you working on? What budgets were you managing? Volume of projects at a time. Those are going to be key bullet points that we're going to be curious to read about.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, I think it's just a spot to kind of brag. It's ultimately a place that people are going to check out your accomplishments. So don't be afraid to kind of highlight the things you've done, because I think that's going to be really enticing to hiring managers and recruiters.
Yeah, and make sure that your LinkedIn, your resume kind of matches up across the board, that you have a clear personal brand. I've seen people apply with completely different job titles. So then again, it's like, so what do you really want to do? So that personal brand is something to for sure focus on moving forward.
Perfect. I mean, there is a couple more questions. Again, we're going to be doing like a follow-up email for you guys. So we want to make sure that everyone's question gets answered. Again, definitely encouraged to connect on LinkedIn, especially with the people that you are networking in your small groups. This is kind of what this was for, to kind of build out that list. Katie, Michelle, do you have any last kind of words before we end the meeting here?
Yeah, so just to go to this last slide here, if there were any questions that weren't answered, or you were, nervous or felt uncomfortable asking to the large group, feel free to email us at team@celerity.com. In addition to your elevator pitches, we'd be happy to take a second glance at those. You will be receiving a recorded version of this webinar after this, so look out for that in your email. And then we'll also be sending a short survey on how you thought this webinar went. So if you could please just take a second to fill that out, we would really appreciate it. We're really just curious on what everyone thought, just to improve these future events moving forward. We know they're always a work in progress, just like your elevator pitches. So that's all we got. But yeah, please connect with me, Michelle, Caitlin on LinkedIn. We look forward to kind of continuing the conversations with you all. Hope you can join us next time, but just really appreciate you taking some time out of your Wednesday to join us.
Yeah, have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.